friends, this is Grace and welcome to my channel and welcome to layout number 17 in our A to Z challenge. This is the challenge where I have this spinner and it lands on a letter, and then that letter is a prompt of an item in my scrapbook stash that I wanted to use up, or at least use some of it. So it landed on X, and my prompt is Siron machine. If you have been in the industry for a while, you know what it is. It's just basically a little adhesive. They call it a sticker maker, but basically what it does is if you put any kind of paper on there, you will have adhesive on the back. It will create an adhesive backed element for you. So I also pulled out a bunch of die cuts because in my head, I was going to use the Siron machine to use the die cuts as stickers. But you're going to see here that it actually will not work out with my idea. But alas, I am going to continue and plug along. So I decided to create a layout about these 4 pictures of my youngest, who was coloring some eggs. This was the year that my big kids has decided that they were graduating from coloring eggs. So it was just my little guy. So I was a little saddened by that because, you know, this has always been a tradition for us. But yeah, the big kids thought that they did not want to do it anymore. So alas, it was just my youngest one, but he still had fun. I still took pictures, so I wanted to document it. So needless to say, all of the elements that I am going to try to use up in this particular layout will be Easter themed. And so I just quickly pulled out a bag that has some Easter or spring related items. I do kind of make, I don't want to say a pre-made kit, but it is kind of sort of kit where I gather all of the items in my stash that is related to that theme, and then I kind of put together my own kit so that whenever I have an Easter or spring themed layout, I could just pull that out, and or like if I have a birthday one, 4th of July, so on and so forth. So I have a bunch of like bunnies, the Easter egg decorations, and then some cardstock to match the colors of my other products. So I am going to start off by gutting out this 12 by 12 paper, and it is kind of a peachy color. It will be a good backdrop for the layers of pattern paper that I have in mind, and I am gutting that because that's just a thing that I always do. I've been doing that for like 20 some years. I just like to save my cardstock to make sure that I have enough to use up. Well, I shouldn't say I have enough. I will always have enough, but I just don't like wasting the inside of a cardstock, especially when I know that there's going to be a lot of layers of paper on it anyways. This time around, I am calculating, and I think I discovered that this cardstock was not quite 12 by 12. So that made me a little sad because I really wanted that as a background. But because I've got it already, I feel like I want to use that. I still want to use it for this particular page, but then I am going to end up having to kind of change around my plans here. So I'm going to gut it again. This time I measured it to make sure that it is 12 by 12 first before I gutted it. I think the reason why the other one was not was I probably did put that cardstock in that kit, but then I used up a little bit of it, and just a little, so I thought it was already, it was still a 12 by 12. So I am going to layer that light pink plaid paper with this pattern paper that has a lot of Easter eggs on there. And because I wanted to use that orangey paper, I will mat the Easter egg paper on there just so that it will have a difference or variation or like a border between that pattern paper and this plaid one. I also decided to ink up the edges of my papers just to make it stand out a little bit more, and I'm adhering that with an ATG gun. So if you're new to my channel or new to this series, basically what I do is I've already built up my little prompt. So I did this challenge, I would say 2 or 3 years ago, and I really liked it. The reason I like these kinds of challenges because it stretches me to go through my stash and focus on using them up. I know that a lot of us, especially if you've been scrapbooking for a while, that you accumulate a lot of products. Now, maybe for some, they like that idea of like having a lot and, to each its own. But there are times in my scrapbooking where I get pretty overwhelmed if I have way too many choices. And so this is kind of my way of balancing things out. Yes, I still buy things. I don't buy them as much and as often as I used to. But again, like I said, I have been scrapbooking for over 20 years. So that's a given that I have collected a lot of stuff. But I also, it gives me a fulfilled feeling that I used up my stash, but then it also gives me, if once I use up something, then it gives me a chance to buy some new ones. So I like that idea as well. Okay, so now I was able to use up again this smaller kind of peachy colored paper. I did have to trim up the edges just a little bit because they were too long on one side, and just thankful that I have that sliver of paper that still worked out as a border for this paper. And I'm sorry that my head is in the way. These kinds of projects, I want to make sure that the paper is centered. So as you can see, this layout is already heavily layered because everything kind of has a mat. So are the photos. I matted that with black. I was contemplating of maybe doing white, but when I was trying to audition a white background with the pattern papers, the white just doesn't make the photo stand out more. And also my son has a black shirt in the photo, so I thought that would work out well. Okay, so now I'm trying to find my foam adhesive because I want the horizontal photo. All three of the ones that are on top are horizontal, and then this one's vertical, and I'm going to adhere that with some foam adhesive just to make it stand out, because that will be kind of like my focal, or the focal image or photo. So now I have this big long strip. I did cut that out with my silhouette, and then I'm going to back that up onto white paper. I believe this is just kind of like your, those filler papers that you get when you purchase an album and or when you purchase sheet protectors for your 12 by 12. So I collect those because, why not? So I use them in projects just like this. So I'm going to back that up so that I will have a base to do all the rest of my papers. And then, of course, I am just going to trim the excess of that so that all you see is the photo strip. And so instead of putting pictures in the panels, in the holes, I am going to put some pattern paper. And again, these papers are from that kit that I have for spring. And so I just grabbed some that I thought would be a good fit for this layout. Now, I know that these panels are big and it's not going to fit my Xyron machine, but I think I'm going to try them first. Or maybe I realized at this point that they weren't going to fit. I'm not sure. I just know that I really had the biggest intention to use my Xyron machine in this layout, and it's not going to work out. Oh, I'm going to start with the letters. So I started with L, and the title will be Lucky. I know that's more St. Patrick's Day, but I had those die cuts and I was just thinking, why not? So here I am trying to put them in there, and I only have this Xyron. I don't have anything bigger than this. But what I realized quickly is that the letters were still way too big for the part that I wanted it in, and so I'm gonna just end up using some liquid glue. Of course, you could definitely use liquid glue here. You don't have to have a Xyron machine, but that was my attempt of using up some of my stash, which didn't work out for this one, but it's okay. I still managed to create a layout, and that makes me happy. So I am just backing up or adding the letters to the pattern paper. I decided to do it this way because I felt like if I just put the letters inside the panel, yes, it will work out, but it just would not have as much design if I just put it on the white paper. Again, it would still work out. I just wanted a little bit more design. Now here, because it is a pattern paper backed up in pattern paper, the letters just doesn't stand out as much as I want. And so I grabbed, I believe this is a 0.5 pen, and I just bought this at Hobby Lobby. And I am just basically outlining the outside of those die cut letters. And I will mess it up here some, but it's all right. It will be fine. And so now I am going to start adhering this. Oh, I guess this paper it was a pattern paper. I buy those things too. I like to buy those packs at Hobby Lobby, like the you don't know what you're getting kind of pack, and sometimes I like the excitement of that, but also a lot of those papers are just one-sided, so I use the back side as kind of my white cardstock like I did here. So I decided to back up all of those panels with some foam adhesive just to make it stand out a little bit more. I do like that there's dimension. And then I already pre-printed my journaling. I typed it up on a Word document, and then I printed a bunch of journaling that would fit with the pictures that I'm ready to scrapbook, and I just trim them as I go. So that's that. And then now I get to decorate. I do have these bunnies. Again, they are just cut out from a cut file and cut out on white cardstock. And I wanted to use 3 of them here. And they're going to act as my visual triangle. And I wanted to kind of dress them up a little bit more because right now they're just plain white. So I'm thinking that I am going to grab an embossing folder and emboss them. And I believe I went with a Swiss dot, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, actually, no, I take that back. I did 3 different kinds of embossing folders for these particular bunnies because I wanted them to look differently, each one, so that they kind of have their own personality. And embossing folders are one of those items in my stash where I love it when I'm using it, but when I'm not using it, I forget how awesome they are. And so again, this is another reason why I do these kinds of challenges or do these kinds of exercises for myself, is to remind me of what I have and to remind me why I like what I have. So here are finished pictures of the layout. I did add a bunch of little hearts there and some other stickers, and I did rub the bunnies with some ink just to give it a little bit more color. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye now.